that mag feed. And I can't wait to go across the pond to listen to Across the Pod, fresh out of Wales. Special stuff. Cheers.
Hello everyone, Andy here, and here's what you can look forward to in today's episode. In today's episode, I was joined by Aaron Fletcher as we go through our top 10 players to watch out for in the upcoming NFL draft. I discuss which player I think could fall dramatically. If it gets to pick 20 or 21 and he's still on the board, gets to pick 28, 29 and he's still on the board, that will say to me, okay, this guy, there's some issues, there's some concerns from GMs because... And Fletch discusses which player we should all be rooting for in their NFL career.
I want to see him go and do well. I want to see him go and silence the haters.
Hope you all enjoy. Hi everyone and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I am as ever your host Andy Davis, and in today's episode with the NFL draft less than a month away, we're going to look at the top 10 players to look out for in the upcoming NFL draft. And with me today, I have got a returning guest, college football expert. He runs a college football podcast. Back with me today is Aaron Fletcher, otherwise known as Fletch. Fletch,
hello.
Great to have you back
on. It's great, and I will. Expert is a stretch, but I will do my very best to come across as such, not let you down on that one.
Well, yeah, for me, that I've made it no secret on this podcast that I don't watch college football. I simply haven't got the time to watch a third sport in detail, but when I knew I was planning this episode, there's a few guys I had in my head as people to sort of look towards, and you were definitely one of those first few I thought of. So, yeah, good to have you back on. And we are recording this about, 4 days after, in a different kind of football. Your team beat my team fairly convincingly. So, yeah, I was kind of hoping when we were planning the episode, I could be sitting here and sort of teasing you about beating you the FA Cup. But in the end, it was an absolute disaster class.
Did you say 4 days? Was it 4 days? Specifically 4 days? Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4 days. Yeah. I want to make sure the information you're providing is correct here, Andy. So, yeah, yesterday, I believe 4 is the correct number. Yeah, 4.
Not great. It's been a pretty horrific season. Yeah, not good at all. But before we go on to the rest of the episode, let's go on to On This Day. On this day, on April 12th, back in 1940, the NFL changed the clipping penalty from 25 yards to 15 yards, and the likes of Carl Nassib, Ted Ginn Jr., Zachary Kroski Merritt, Adam Butler and Nate Solder were all born. So in today's episode, we're going to each give 5 nominees for who we think are players to look out for in today's episode, in the upcoming NFL draft. And this won't be including Mendoza, unless there's a really good reason that Fletch gives me. Most likely we won't be including Mendoza, but maybe players you haven't heard of that you can expect to hear potentially in those 3 days in Pittsburgh. And as we always do in our top 10s, we each go one by one. And at the end, we compile our list from 10 to 1. Now, Fletch, before we go on to our players and who we're going to nominate, like yourself, I've developed like a routine around the NFL draft now. Not normally want to stay up and watch it live. I'm more so watching it the next day. Although this year might be different. Expect more potentially on the socials about that. But the one thing I have done in the last few years, since the last 10 years or so, growing into a big fan of the NFL, and the last 5 years especially, my routine is I make sure every year, whether it's the same day or whether it's a week leading up to it, I watch draft day. Do you have any sort of draft routines going into it? Are you watching it live? Your sleep pattern suggests you probably will be watching it live. But have you got any sort of routine that you'll be sticking with come late April?
I think last time I checked, spoke to a lawyer not long ago, it is a legal requirement to watch draft day in and around the draft period. So, we're good. We have to do that. So I'll make sure that gets in, that you have to. You just have to watch draft day. And then I can't really think of anything that I do or take every single year where I'm like, I have to do this for the draft, other than obviously watch draft day. I think I'll spend most of the day aware of I'm awake at silly o'clock in the morning most of the time anyway, but I'm not doing a lot of things. I'm doing admin stuff. I'm doing this. But it's one of those times where at 3 a.m, you kind of have to be on. If you're going to be on it and doing kind of what I do in the space, you kind of have to be on it. So I'll spend most of the day not being on it, just kind of previewing stuff. I might, I'll listen into some of the social media stuff that's going on, on Twitter, and that you'll have spaces going on and people will be joining in, getting in there, getting the last bits in. I'll have a feed going on maybe on my computer, just seeing some of the latest news, because things happen on draft day, where word gets out that one player might be falling or rising. I'm not a big betting guy, but you always just kind of check the spreads just to see what Vegas is saying. If you remember Will Levis a couple of years ago, on draft day, he'd gone from like this maybe mid first round pick and first round pick to Will Levis is going 3rd overall, 4th overall, to then not getting picked at all on the day. But I think that's it. Just kind of keeping an eye on the trends that are going on during the day. Got to watch draft day and take most of the day slowly, because it's going to get a bit more full on once it hits 10, 11 o'clock. Kind of got to be on it then.
Yeah, fair enough. I've never watched a draft live. I've watched, I reckon, 9 drafts by now. All of them are on Game Pass the next morning. So if I'm going to do it this year and watch it live, I'm intrigued to see just how long that wait is per pick, because I do hear horror stories of how long people are having to wait between each pick. But we will go on to your first nominee as to who you think is a player to look out for in the upcoming NFL draft.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the really interesting ones, and this comes more from a case of, they will probably go very high in the draft, but I'm really interested to see just how they fall, where they fall, and just how far they fall. Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame, he is arguably, there is a 1A, 1B for most talented player in the draft, and it's between him and Caleb Downs. But as we all know, with their 2 positions, they're a running back and a safety, and they're not the most well-valued positions. And sometimes, these players like that can slip down the draft board, not because of the talent, but because of the position that they play more than anything. There are more premium positions that teams want to go for within those spots. So for me, Jeremiah Love is the most talented player in this draft, because I can't say that someone from Ohio State is the most talented person in the draft. I'm not allowing myself to do that. So Jeremiah Love, most talented player in the draft, but whether he could go as high as Tennessee, he will be on the board when Tennessee pick, and they could take the flashy pick and give some Cam Ward, and they would really benefit offensively from having someone like Jeremiah Love with Cam Ward. But he could also drop and maybe fall out of the top 10 just because of the positional value.
Yeah, he is someone that I also have written down as one of my first people to look for, because it's not even just to do with the talent, because I think we all know it's there, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens and whether he can live up to his hype and who takes him. But my thing with him, that's why I was looking at him as well, was the fact that I think you look at the first pick, Mendoza, Raiders take him. I think that's almost a given. And I think with the Jets and the Cardinals, I think there's a very good chance that the Jets take an edge rusher, Cardinals take either that or an offensive lineman. But I think with the Titans at 4, they could take any position, and I think I'm really intrigued to see if the Jets and Cardinals take their players. Do we see teams straight up and try and get him 4th overall? And I think as well, even with the Jets, they've got that much draft capital. They might want to just keep expanding it, and they might, and they might want to trade down and just add to that collection. And I think it's more than likely they'll go edge rusher. But if they trade down, then there's a lot of players a lot of teams who might go in and try and get in before the Titans at 4, because the Titans are seen as, by many, as a team that are projected in mock drafts to go and take him at 4th overall. Yeah. But you think about that sort of almost that mentality of getting it before someone else does. You see it in multiple sports. But I think with this, I think that if the Jets trade down or are open to trading down and they open to doing that, then I think there's a whole world where there's plenty of teams that, could go from Cleveland Browns, could be one, for example. Titans could try and trade up to 2nd. I don't know, but I think Jeremiah Love, for me, like you said, one of the most coveted players in the draft, seen as the most talented non-quarterback or even just player in general in the draft.
Yeah,
I think if a team like the Jets trade down, I think we could see an almighty scramble to go and get Jeremiah Love before other teams do.
He is someone, like I say, seldom have I ever seen him fall out with the top 10 in any mock draft. And the talent that you get included in the passing game entirely speaks for itself. Like there's no question there whether that talent exists or not. I had him, I think I spoke yesterday on Hurdle the Line when I kind of jumped in for a couple of seconds on behalf of Mrs. Fletch, who's a Saints fan, where, I mean, she'd love to see if he could fall to 9 and maybe get him at the Saints at 9. But you're absolutely right. And if, depending on how those, even if Tennessee don't take him at number 4, if someone else is jumping up and we start to see some movement in terms of teams in that top 10, what domino could fall and whether it would be for him or whether it be for one of the kind of primary defensive players. And he just continues to fall and slide because just something else is hotter at that moment in time.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think he's going to be one of the more intriguing players to look out for in the upcoming draft. Yeah. So my first nominee is a guy that is a wide receiver coming out of Louisville. I'm going to go for wide receiver Chris Bell as my first nominee because he is a guy that had a lot of buzz, a lot of sort of talk about him, and then he had a ACL tear in last season, 2025. And for me, why I've kind of picked him out is the fact that the injury thing, our team's going to really be affected by that. Is that going to affect the minds of GMs and owners and head coaches? Or is the team going to take a chance on the talent and hope that he doesn't repeat his ACL injury? So here's a guy that, people are saying that he would have been a first rounder had the injury not happened. And at 6'2", he's got the size for it. And again, I'm going by reports of what he's like because again, I don't watch college football, but I think the fact that there'll be a few players like this. Injuries come into factor. Will teams take a chance? And I think I'm intrigued to see: does he go in the first day? Does he go in the second day? Does he go in the third round, fourth round? Does he slide? That for me is something that I'm really intrigued to see what happens.
Yeah, most places I see have him as a very late day 1, maybe early day 2 kind of pick. The whole question on injuries and ACL tears and things like that already are playing a part in the wide receiver race as well with Jordan Tyson, whom, if you want my hot take, I guess, from out of the draft, it's that without an ACL, MCL, PCL tear, which is a lot of CLs to tear in one go, Jordan Tyson is the best wide receiver in the draft class. It's not Carnell Tate. And Carnell Tate is a great wide receiver too. Jordan Tyson is one of the few true wide receiver ones in this draft class. He is the best by far. But he's got the ACL, MCL, PCL tear. He's got the fact that over every season he's missed at least 3, maybe 4 games in his collegiate career. So injuries are already playing a factor in the wide receiver race, and who may go ahead, who may fall, who may move. What I've noticed, I guess, in the NFL as of late, you look at the last few years, and the Lions have done it a few times. ACL tears are seemingly less of a career killer, less of a draft stock tanker. Yeah, they'll drop you a few places, but with sports science the way it is, ACL tear recovery is getting better and better and better. When it's rehabbed right, when you treat it the right way, plenty of players go on to have fantastic careers after having an ACL tear. Jameson Williams being an example of that one. He came into the Lions with an ACL tear and didn't play for the first half of his season because of the ACL tear, but has since gone on to have somewhat decent career, I guess. 2,000-yard season plus. So hopefully, I guess for him, a fantastic player. He is absolutely fantastic, but hopefully, like I say, the ACL tears don't seem to be a death sentence anymore for draft stock as much as it used to.
Yeah, I remember that's the thing. There's these players that have these injury concerns, like not even to the draft itself. Drew Brees was famously turned down by the Dolphins because of an injury he suffered in San Diego. Goes to New Orleans, and I don't recall having any real massive injury problems since. But then on the flip side, you look at two players that did play for the Dolphins in Tua and Jalen Phillips. Both had injury problems going into the draft, injury concerns, and they both had their issues at the team. So, for me, I'm really intrigued to see how he does. Now, I want to ask you one thing. Now, this again, there were reports coming out recently, or I say recently, last month now, talking of, we mentioned Mendoza is going to be in our top 10 list because he's a consensus pick, but no, there were kind of signs that the Raiders were giving that Mendoza could be going cold on him. Do you think that's all just the classic NFL draft smokescreen?
Yeah, smoke and mirrors. There's nothing I've seen to suggest that the Raiders would want to go anywhere. I mean, I heard the argument the other day when they signed Kirk Cousins, and we've got at the AAW, we've got obviously a quote staff group chat, and the conversation just kind of someone asked the question, they were like, may as well throw it out there, it gets a discussion going. Could they no longer want to have Mendoza at number one? Could they look to get rid of that number one overall pick? And I think, for me, you've got Tom Brady in the building. You've got Kirk Cousins now in the building. Who better is someone like Fernando Mendoza going to learn off in his rookie season, potentially in his sophomore season, in his second season, than like a Kirk Cousins type? Because Mendoza's primarily going to be a pocket passer, but he has the ability, I guess, to use his legs when he needs to. But he's going to be a primarily pocket passer. And he's just this really nice, upbeat, positive, innocent guy. And who else is like that in the league? Kirk Cousins, in a very, very similar position. So I think, you look at the questions around Mendoza, Kirk Cousins might have even thrown a spanner in those works, but I actually think it couldn't be less of any more of a genius move by the Raiders to get someone like Kirk Cousins in for him.
I totally agree. This is for me. I really like what the Raiders are doing, because not only have they gone out and splashed free agency money, added in the fact they've gone out and kept Max Crosby in amongst all of that. They're protecting their guy, going out and paying the money for Linderbaum, and getting a guy like Kirk Cousins, who looks like Mendoza in 30 years' time. They look very similar and they act very similar. And Mendoza, from what I've seen, is a great talker. Seems like a great pro to have in the building. And for me, I've said this many times on the show in my 6 years doing this, most of the best quarterbacks of all time didn't start year one. Tom Brady didn't.
Yep.
Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith. Lamar Jackson sat for half the season behind Joe Flacco. Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre, and even Jordan Love now is not one of the best, but he's still a good quarterback, sat behind Rodgers. Only really I can think off the top of my head is the likes of Peyton Manning, Joe Burrow, but there's so much issues I think with starting a guy. I think Caleb Williams might have been the exception because they were 7-9 before we joined, but there's a reason why these teams are often picking first overall, like the Raiders are, because they're not a very good team. And you give a guy who comes in with all his confidence, you put him in a situation where the O-line's bad, or he keeps getting battered and bruised, or the defense keeps letting him down. That's going to really affect the quarterback's confidence. And I think no matter whether you've won 4 Heismans, whether you've won 3 national championships, or whether you've won none, you can't expect to go into it and the NFL where the famous saying is only 3% of college players make the NFL, and NFL stands for not for long. You can't tell me that it benefits them in 9 times out of 10. It does not benefit them to start year one, because they need to learn, and they need to learn how to be a pro off the field, how to be a pro on the field, getting used to the adjustment in speed and the change up in going from what is amateur to professional. For me, it's just, I think for a lot of teams, it's incompetent. And as well, one thing I will add to this, if Burrow if he'd started in the whole of his rookie year, stayed healthy, they would not be picking 5th overall that next year and take Jamar Chase. And they would not make the Super Bowl the following year if Joe Burrow had the whole year started. For me as well, if you also have a Kirk Cousins or Geno Smith or whoever you want to have as a bridge quarterback for a year, and you win 5-6 games, maybe 4, you're going to get better players in the next year. And it just adds to that. If you let them develop and let them stay and learn behind someone, I think 9 times out of 10, that benefits a team massively. So if the Raiders were to, I mean, you could argue they could trade down and get a quarterback in the second round. They could do that. But if you've got a guy like him who seems like the perfect guy to have in your locker room in Mendoza, I think they'd be ridiculously stupid to not only not draft him, but also not start him. If they start him year one, I'd be very let down by that franchise.
Yeah. Let me ask you a quick question there, Andy. And I liked one of the videos you did recently for your social media around Super Bowl winning quarterbacks and which colleges have produced Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. Can you tell me the last quarterback who started in year one, started week 1, year 1 of their rookie season and won a Super Bowl with the franchise that they started with? And I can tell you, I can't tell you who it is, but I can, by looking up it, I can tell you it's been a long flipping time. It's been a long time.
The obvious one goes to my immediate thought goes to Peyton Manning. Is it that era or is it later than 98?
So the last time Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl was Super Bowl 50 with the Denver Broncos, not the team he was drafted by.
But he did win one with the Colts.
He did win one with the Colts, but so I mean, I'm looking at Sam Darnold here, won the last Super Bowl, drafted by the Jets, won it with the Seahawks. Jalen Hurts sat behind, was not a week 1 starter in year 1. He beat. He was meant to be QB3 as well, but then he got brought in for some gadget plays. Beating Nate Sudfeld. Patrick Mahomes won the 2 before that. Was not a week 1 starter. Matt Stafford was a week 1 starter in the NFL in his rookie season, but won it with a different team. I just hurt myself saying that. Don't know why I even said it. Tom Brady was neither a week 1 starter, nor did he win it with the team he was drafted by when he won it with the Bucs. Mahomes before that, Brady, okay, he won it with the team he was drafted by before that, the Patriots, but wasn't a week 1 starter. Nick Foles, not a starter. Tom Brady. So you see that, and I think it might be Russell Wilson. Did Russell Wilson start yet week 1 rookie season?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
I think he might have. I think there was a thing where, because I did think then is it Joe Flacco, but I think with Russell Wilson, there was a quarterback, I want to say his name was Matt Flynn, who they bought in free agency. I think he had one game as a back in the final week of the season for the Packers, impressed. I think that's his name, Matt Flynn. And they bought him in free agency. The same year they took Russell Wilson, I can't think what round it was, 3rd, 4th round. And I think he impressed a lot. I think he impressed in preseason, and then I think he started week 1. I think that's how it went down with Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
I'll have to check that. But
I was gonna say that's like I was that was a 2012 season, so that was just the year before I started watching properly. He was the week one. Well, it says he started his first regular season debut on September 9th. So I'm going to guess that's week one of 2012 because that's roughly the weekend week one is. So the last quarterback to win a Super Bowl, starting week one and win it with the team he was drafted by, would be Russell Wilson with the Seahawks.
Wow, and that is probably even if you go further back than that, it's probably a few more quarterbacks that didn't as well. If you go further back,
probably Peyton Manning. Yeah. Peyton Manning at the Colts would probably be the next one after that. So it says I just wanted to do that to kind of help make your point of if you start a quarterback week one, he might win a Super Bowl for another franchise if you let him sit and learn and come into the NFL the week one in year two with a year of sitting back, learning the league, getting used to the speed, playing against NFL level defensive backs in practice. He might win a Super Bowl for your franchise.
Yeah, it really is one of those conundrums. But we will move on to your second nominee of players to look out for in this upcoming NFL draft. Fletch, who are you taking?
Yeah, so one of the position groups I find really interesting, especially because it wasn't that interesting to me until we did the College Football UK podcast offensive lineman episode. And then I realized that we all kind of saw things slightly differently. And I thought everyone thought like me because I'm so clever and smart. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So you could pick any one of Spencer Fano or Monroe Freeling in this conversation. You take whichever one you want, but both of those I find really interesting to look out for. And again, it's primarily down to the draft day storyline that they could create. Monroe Freeling is a fantastic tackle, and he has a lot to work on, but in 1 year of production, because he only played in 2025, really, and he played a bowl game in 2024, the playoff game in 2024, played the full season in 2025. The change in how good he is a world of difference, and he looks like a top offensive lineman product. However, he's got 1 year of production. Spencer Fano, on the other hand, has essentially been a starter since his freshman season in college. He started at left tackle, now played most of his time at Utah at right tackle after he got moved for I can't remember his name off the top of my head, don't know why. The other Utah lineman in the draft that could go very high was the left tackle. So he got moved over to right. Spencer Fano, for me, is one of the most ready to go day one tackles, alongside Francis Mauigoa, but he's the clear consensus number one offensive lineman. But Spencer Fano is undersized. He's got shorter arms. He's got a very slim lower body. Some people are talking about moving him to guard, and I'm like, well, if he's smaller and slimmer than other offensive linemen, you want your guards to be bigger and tougher, less about finesse and with your tackles. So I think for me, one of the really interesting ones and why you can take either Monroe Freeling or Spencer Fano as my answer is because it's going to be really interesting to see who goes first out of the two of them. They are the two clear second and third offensive tackles in this draft, but no one, I think, can figure out who's number two and who's number three. For me personally, it's Spencer Fano. The one I watch the most is Spencer Fano. Given that Michigan have just signed the head coach from Utah players or something, I've looked a lot at this offseason to see what we're going to kind of get out of him. And I really, really, really love watching Spencer Fano. But the problems he has is, despite being a starter from freshman season and logging thousands and thousands of snaps, his size, his small lower body is going to cause a problem in comparison to someone like Monroe Freeling, who's full-sized, is a bigger sized tackle, but only has 1 year of production.
Interesting. Yeah, this is why I got you on, because these things I would never have known about these college players without you telling me this. So I'm learning a lot already. Because I knew about Jeremiah Love, but these two guys, really good to hear their stories. And yeah, I think it's up to you whether you want to include both in this or just one of these players. But either way, I think these are worthwhile contenders, absolutely, for this top 10.
Take Spencer Fennell. Take Spencer Fennell down because, like I say, he's the one where I'm like, I get it. If Monroe Freeling goes first above him, I get it. Right? He's the more NFL sized. He's the leap in and the leap in just how good he's got through learning in 1 year is fantastic. But I'm just interested to see how that battle plays about. And given that Spencer Fennell was my number 2, to what potentially watching him for, I'll kind of use Spencer Fennell as my one to watch more than anything. But it comes with a side of Monroe Freeling, who is a fast riser in the draft and could continue to rise in terms of stock.
So my turn next to pick a nominee for this list, and I want to go for a guy that is projected to be the next quarterback taken after Mendoza, Ty Simpson. And for me, it's been well documented. It's not the best year for quarterbacks in the draft. But for me, my thing is, it goes back to what you mentioned about Will Levis. There was a thing with Mac Jones. Do teams reach for him, or do teams take him in the second round? And for me, that's where I find he's someone to really look out for in this draft, because there's plenty of teams that are QB needy, and there's teams like I think the Cardinals, especially, who are picking early in the second round. They could either be right to go, okay, we'll take him second round, or are they fully committed to the tank, which they are right now the bookies' favourites to be the number 1 overall pick in 2027. And it's teams like that, do they go and take him and take a risk in the second round, or even, and then if it gets to the third round, I think there'll be a lot of teams that'll be going, right, at this point it's pretty risk-free. Because some people think you could go to first round, some are predicting early second round, but if he gets towards third round territory, there'll be a lot of teams that will be thinking, he could be obviously some use as a backup quarterback. Some teams could take a risk and hope that it's like Dak Prescott or Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins. That's what I find interesting. Alabama quarterback, which is such an historic college, but there's a lot of quarterbacks that haven't succeeded since leaving Alabama. So for him, he's obviously good quarterback, but is he going to be the guy that's going to be taken in the first 2 rounds? That's where I find it's a really interesting one. I don't know whether he's been invited to the draft and whether we'll see a kind of a Will Levis, Aaron Rodgers style green room focus on his face. I don't know whether he's going to be there in person or not, but I'll be really intrigued to see who takes a chance and whether when the team does take him, whether they're going to take him. If there's certain teams who go, right, they're going to be a backup. Like, say if, for example, the Ravens took him in the 4th round, you'd be like, right, that's his career sorted, then the backup. But if a team like the Cardinals, I'm using them again as an example, or even the Browns took him, you'd be like, right, what's going on here? Are they going to start him week 1? That's where I find there's real intrigue with Ty Simpson going into the draft.
Yeah, and I think you look at some of the QB needy teams, but there are also teams who aren't specifically QB needy, and I'll put like the Dolphins, the Jets, in this conversation. The Browns are another one where they've already got, I think, is it 746 quarterbacks in the building at the moment, could potentially bring in at least 7 more. Whether they draft all 7 of those, nobody knows. What the Browns do with quarterbacks is a mystery to everybody on this planet, including the Browns. What I'm kind of looking at here is that you've Ty Simpson would be great, and to go back to your point of resting a quarterback, sitting a quarterback for a year, Ty Simpson will need that. I mean, that's your best bet with Ty Simpson. The Jets have a quarterback in the building in Geno Smith. Geno Smith will be fine for a year, right? No one is going to get upset with Geno Smith for a year. You've got the Dolphins, who've now got Malik Willis for 2 years. So you can bring someone like a Ty Simpson in, knowing you've kind of got the insurance policy the same way the Raiders got Kirk Cousins in the building. It would be interesting to see who's willing to take the punt on him and how high they're willing to take that punt, because, again, you look at some of the mock drafts, you generally have him graded as a second round talent, even in this year's draft. But as we all know from the draft, no matter what grade your talent is, it's the teams that need you, when can they and when do they need to go and get you? And if that just so happens to be, there's a run of teams that may need that kind of quarterback midway through the first round, one of them will probably go and take it. So who's willing to be the one to take that risk? But we see it every year, though, as well. There's always a quarterback who ends up getting taken who you sit back and go, whoa, what's that team doing? Michael Penix to the Falcons. I was sat on a Twitter space with a Falcons fan who came off for the pick, came back on and said, I'm not talking to anyone for the rest of the night, because he did not like that pick. Then just a few picks later, Bo Nix goes at 12 and everyone goes, whoa, what are they doing taking Bo Nix at 12? Bo Nix could have been in a Super Bowl this year if he was playing in the AFC Championship. The Broncos might have been in a Super Bowl. It's not the way it played out. Not playing ifs and buts, but that could have been a thing. I mean, last year, I can't remember who it was last year. I did have it in my head just then, but there was another quarterback, Tyler Shook, and Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart flew up boards towards the end of the draft time, pre-draft space. But both of them were taken and people kind of went, whoa, that's a bit high. Now everyone loves Jackson Dart. Might be out the league in 2 years because of various different head injuries. And Tyler Shook is now the savior of New Orleans. So some of these punts some teams might be willing to take a punt on the basis of the fact that sometimes they work out, right? Sometimes they just work out. Again, Tyler Shook to the Saints, Jackson Dart's working out, Bo Nix is working out. Michael Penix, maybe not the best example for that one right at this very moment in time. We'll see in the future. So Ty Simpson, mid-first round, could definitely see it, where you've got a run of the Jets, the Dolphins, and a couple of other teams. And the Jets, like I say, with the capital that they've got, a quarterback for the future might be worth a punt.
I agree. I think, a lot of intrigue around that man. Now, Fletch, for your third nominee as players you want to include as to look out for in this year's draft, which player are you nominating next?
This is where it starts to get, so I don't want to, again, focus on one position. For me, one of the really interesting ones is, I mentioned Jordan Tyson. In fact, I'll stick with Jordan Tyson for right now, right? The wide receiver out of ASU, phenomenal talent, absolutely phenomenal talent. If you go back and listen to, again, the wide receiver episode of the College Football UK, I basically write a love letter to him. For me, the most talented wide receiver, but it's the injuries. And to echo what you brought in with Chris Bell, I'll use him as it's really interesting to see how and where he falls, given the talent, the pure talent that he's got, and whether NFL teams will be willing to take a risk on the injury record to go out and get someone who's super explosive, extremely good at attacking all three levels of the field, but could potentially see those injury concerns creep in, and how that's. So does he fall behind Mekhi Lemon? Does someone go and take the talent over the other stuff and take him above Mekhi Lemon? Does he fall even further? I don't know. But for me, most talented wide receiver in the draft, and I always like these willy won't he slides, because someone will get a steal out of him if he can stay healthy.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Mackay Lemon, and I want to give a little prop to my next nominee. I am picking Mackay Lemon as my next nominee, and it's purely for one thing only. It's those combine interviews he had. Now, there's been a lot of talk about these interviews, the stuff with his eyes, and I think you think about kind of draft slides, obviously, should have standards last year. Obviously, different reasons for that, but I say different. Actually, there's similar things. The character concerns. Now, some people were saying that they reckon there's anxiety going on there. He was shy, but others are thinking a whole different end of the spectrum. And I think he's one to look out for, because I think if he's taken top 10, fair enough. No one's really cared about it. But if it gets to pick 20 or 21, and he's still on the board, gets to pick 28, 29, and he's still on the board, that will say to me, okay, this guy, there's some issues, there's some concerns from GMs, because, you know, at USC, he has a lot of tape on him, a lot of, you know, successful, you know, moments. I'm going to quickly get up his stats because they're pretty impressive. So in his 3 years in college football, in his last year especially, 11 touchdowns, 1,156 yards, and then he had 764 the year before. So there's that thing of him as well where he's only had really, 1.5 good years of college football. And there's that thing where all that combined, I just really think that he could be a guy that falls. I really think that he is if I'm picking one guy that could slide in this draft, I think he could be the guy, because I do think that interview could come back to haunt him with some teams. And I've no doubt that, you know, that interview would also coincide with maybe some interviews with GMs, with head coaches, with owners. If that happened, what he showed in public on that interview, if that happens behind the scenes, if those kind of same eye movements are happening, you could see teams being put off by it. I don't know whether I'm just being a bit crazy or whether I'm jumping the gun. But I think that, like I said before, top 10 pick, no need to worry about it. But if it gets to the late first round and he's still not there, I think he could be a real one to look out for, a player that could slide.
Yeah, and there are plenty of talents at wide receiver coming through that aren't far behind him necessarily in terms of talent. Kind of consensus between, I'll say Jordan Tyson and Mackay Lemon. They've got kind of the consensus top three. But you could, and because you've got Omar Cooper Jr., you've got Kevin Concepcion, Denzel Boston, Chris Bell, Chris Brazzell, which, by the way, everyone be careful, because that's one where someone will slip up on Chris Bell and Chris Brazzell. Brazzell is out of Tennessee. I mean, Bell and Brazzell kind of seem to be definitely day twoers, but Denzel Boston, Kevin Concepcion, Omar Cooper Jr. are right hot on the tails of Mackay Lemon and Jordan Tyson, and you could see them given some of the concern. And with someone like a Mackay Lemon, he's on the smaller side of receiver. He's only 5'11". I say only 5'11". It's taller than me. But he's 5'11", that's slightly shorter arms, not as quick and explosive as some of the others. I don't want to get into character concerns too much on people, but, even just some of the measurables, fantastically talented, but even some of the measurables are not as necessarily standout-ish as some others. Whereas, at least with Jordan Tyson, those measurables are very, very good. Those are very, very, particularly in terms of the explosiveness, and you watch his tape going around the outside and how crisp he is with the routes and all the different drills that he can, the route tree that he has. As someone I can see, I don't think he falls too far. Whereas Mackay Lemon, again, just some of with the measurables as well, could fall a little bit.
Well, let's go on to your fourth nominee for players to look out for in this upcoming draft. Which player are you taking next?
Yeah, I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball now. I've done three parts of the offensive side. Do you know what? I'm going to stick with they are a top consensus, well, generally near the top consensus pick, but again, they seem to be falling a lot at the moment. Could move around. I love Ruben Bain Jr. out of Miami, the defensive end. He was instrumental in just how, as well alongside Akeem Messidor, he was instrumental in seeing Miami get to the national championship game in the college football playoffs. A remarkable, phenomenal talent, but short arms, which the NFL doesn't tend to favour and look too well and fondly upon defensive ends with shorter arms. Although, there are other things that go into it. Shorter arms tend not to be what NFL teams like and will reward given other circumstances. He relies so much on a bull. The dude is strong, right? I think we are, as of the day of recording this, when we will be talking defensive linemen in the college football pod tomorrow. My line on him is, if I stood still and he ran at me, the question is, would I be out cold or have to change my trousers first? Like, which one would need to be done first? Because he is so tough. Bull rush is the bull rush is fantastic, and I've seen him send offensive linemen back yards. I've seen him trap quarterbacks purely on the basis of he's got old linemen going into their own quarterbacks because he's that strong. But he doesn't have a lot of the finesse. He's not got a lot of the twitchy movements as much as you would want from a top end edge. And with the short arms, with the bull rush kind of being everything he relies on, he will need some work polishing up. Would teams be willing to go with other defensive linemen and some of the guys who, when you've got Sonny Styleses of the world, when you've got your Akeem Messidors in there, he won't be below Akeem Messidor, but he's someone who you could see potentially just start to slip back again. Unlikely, probably, but teams are not sitting too hot on him at this moment in time. I guess from what I'm seeing anyway, from everything I'm looking at.
Yeah, interesting. So the next guy I want to put forward is a guy that I think for a while was seen as a consensus top pick, but I think recently there's been stories coming out that his friends missed his birthday party. Bo Callahan is my next nominee. Now, you think about Vontae Mack, he's the other guy people think it's the best player in the draft, but I think it's Bo Callahan. I think the fact that there's reports coming up now that he is a I can't do it any longer. That's a nice draft day reference if anyone doesn't know that. What a film! I know it's actually quite a bad film, but it's also quite really good.
But what you should always remember is stick to your principles. It was Vontae Mack, no matter what. Stick to it. And at the end of the day, we talk about character. That's a real character concern, right? It's fair to have that concern. Just saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you want to take other players just because they feel like it. But no, my fourth guy is, apologies to listeners, is once again a wide receiver. They're just really intriguing me this year, the wide receivers, and this is my last one. Depending on who you pick as your last player. Kevin Concepcion is my next, or Concepcion. I don't know how you pronounce his name, but the reason why I want to pick him is because it was well documented in the draft, or the lead up to the draft, about his stutter. And as someone who has had issues in the past with that, he's the guy that I can root for. And I think a lot of people who are watching at home, watching the draft and are watching the NFL the next few years, who have speech impediments, the fact that a guy can go out and be, potentially one of the best players in the league if he wants to, and the mock drafts right now are picking him to go either to the Chiefs or the Niners. These are two great organizations, two great winning teams, and I think I think both teams, I think the Niners especially, will probably go far in the playoffs, in my opinion, next season if everyone stays healthy. For a chance, like for a guy like him, if he goes to a good team and he balls out and he's winning championships or making Super Bowls, it's a real role model, I think, for a lot of people who do have these issues, way worse than I've had it in the past and have now.
Yeah.
So I think he's a guy that I think, got a lot of stick, unfair stick, I think, in that video. And I think I really am intrigued to see him, to see where he goes and if he can silence the haters, and the stats are still pretty good. I mean, 25 touchdowns in college, over 2,000 yards, 12 yards per reception in his college career at Texas A&M and Mississippi State, I think it was before that. A guy I'm really rooting for, and not even just because of on-the-field stuff. So, Kevin Concepcion, really rooting for that guy. I'm hoping he can ball out.
I mean, he's so easy to root for anyway. I've loved seeing some of the interviews with him this year, just in general. He's such an impeccable person. You look at the adversity that guys like that face and how they face that adversity head on. They've worked through it. They've done it. And a lot of people don't get that. A lot of people deal with those struggles in early years, kind of walk away from these kind of things. And I don't know what your playing sports in history is like, especially through your team. I played a lot of football growing up. Like, I know how not very nice some of the locker room environments can be, how I did a lot of combat sports. I know just how not nice those environments can be when you're in the locker rooms, when you're dealing with people, and how easily it is to want to walk away and just say, I'm not doing it because I don't want to be in that environment. So it's massive props to him. Another guy, if you want this, is with Jeremiah Love. I'm not sure if you're aware. I mean, the College Game Day did an amazing piece on it throughout the season. Jeremiah Love was, I can't remember when, but was later on while he was in college, diagnosed with autism, and dealt with a lot of the issues of being a relatively stereotypically autistic person growing up and the struggles that came along with it, and how football gave him that outlet to help him with his with the symptoms of his autism. Autism is something that's quite strong in something that's come up a lot in my life over the last couple of years in people that I love and care about. So again, to see sharing in similar vein, Jeremiah Love is someone who I share a lot of that love. Like, I want to see him go and do well. I want to see him go and silence the haters and silence and deal with them. And it adds to guys like Casey Concepcion, who you just want them to go and win and be great advocates for. Yes, I've dealt with, and these issues that I've dealt with are important and need to be, but they're not who I am. What I am and who I am is far more than this specific thing. On the footballing side of it, which is probably the best, actually really where we want to talk about it as well. We don't want him to just be that fantastic player, absolutely fantastic, and he's very, very explosive, fast, he's twitchy, separation. I look at him in those first, say, 10 to 15 yards of a route, especially if he's running right up on the sideline, he will get separation because he is that fast, and with the explosiveness off the line, wastes very little movement getting off the line and starting those routes. He's really good at using, I guess, some of that leverage. And if you press him, he will get a yard or two on you on some of those routes. So be very interesting. And someone that I look at the Bills and say Josh Allen could really use someone like him. But even teams like the Ravens would be, he'd be really good on the Ravens. Somehow, we all know it, he'd end up at the Chiefs, and the Chiefs will get another fantastic talent that Mahomes can throw to. And we'll all be annoyed about it, but we won't be surprised that the Chiefs just get really lucky with that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to answer your first point. Anyone who's seen my videos in recent times will know my sporting history, playing wise, is not great. Anyone who saw my throw in New Orleans or my running, or I've done a few videos where I've attempted to do stuff like throw a ball or catch, and it's not great. So yeah, that's one thing I will say. Yeah, my sporting history was a bench warmer at football at school. I'd come on the last 3 minutes because the teacher was forced to play everyone at least at some point during the game.
Yeah.
And I play golf, but I'm not very good, but I do play it, and so I know what dressing rooms are like, and I'm fully aware that if I was good, I wouldn't have had that much of a harder time. I would have had an easier time if I was good at sports, playing wise. Not very good, and I'm glad you mentioned Love, because I actually didn't realise he had autism, and apologies to listeners, I'm actually making this a bit of a therapy session. I was diagnosed when I was 4 with autism, so I never really told anyone until I found out Messi had autism, and now it's kind of my thinking of, well, if the best player of all time in football has autism and he's open about it, why don't I tell my friends and people I know? So it goes back to that point about people like Love, people like Kevin Concepcion. Is these guys are going to be role models for kids who will be same age as me, 9, 10, when you're struggling to make a team, where you know that there are players that can go on and make it in the sport you want to do, whether that's NFL, tennis, basketball, golf, whatever sport you want to play in. I think these kind of role models are really crucial to show people that, you can go out and do what you want to do. But we will move on because we've moved back to the football side of things. And to your final selection, Fletch, who is your final player you're going to pick in this list?
So I mean, again, I don't want to. I'll stick on the defensive side of the ball because give you a nice split. One of the ones that gets me the most, and I find so interesting, whether you call it a hate watch if you want, I don't really care. I really like looking at the Caleb Downs and seeing Arvel Reese, Sonny Styles, and how they're predicted. Kind of hoping they all fall in the draft because I'm a Michigan and I can't stand the university that they went to. So yes, I will take some personal hate watching that. Hold my hands up to it. But they are such immense talents that as soon as they enter, as soon as their name's called on day one, which it will be early, they will now be players of that team. I will forget their entire history of college. And just reminding them that they might have beaten this year, but they all continuously lost to Michigan plenty of times. But one of the plays that I am really, really interested in at the moment is Dylan Tieneman out of Oregon, the safety. One person the other day I saw had him go to the Dolphins and the Cowboys, so as early as 11 or 12. There are people who I'm seeing taking him as late as 30, 31. So he's someone who's definitely going to go day one. He's traditionally considered as a safety, which is not a position that many teams seem to value as much, which is, some of the safeties in the league at this moment in time are just phenomenal athletes. I'm looking at, they come under the term of safety. Brian Branch is one of those over the middle safeties who's just phenomenal athlete. How high he gets taken, how low he gets taken, and like I say, it will be a day one talent. This is a very high defensive class. But also, look, we've all loved the rise of Cooper DeJean, etc. over the last few years. The rise of the white defensive back is something that will continue with Dylan Tieneman, and will be really, really fun to watch the rise of the white defensive back. But he's a fantastic athlete. He really, really, really is. He's very fast. It's his 10-yard split was, I'm going to get the details up here. 1.52 10-yard split, top 17% among DBs. Very good measurables. Weight is a little undersized, but generally a good size for a safety, given the speed. Coming out of Oregon, they continuously produce fantastic talents. I love Dan Lanning. I love everything he does. It'd be really interesting to see how, again, for me, it's more not will they go day one, but it's this person could go very high in day one. They could end up creeping towards the back of the draft, and being a fan of a team that's picking at 17. I think for me, the really interesting thing is who could I sit there at 17 and go, oh, he's still on the board? And see some of the steals. It's a very, very deep class in terms of, I guess, especially on the defensive side as well.
Yeah, I think that's some of the thing. I think that's part of the thing. I mean, I've not really been, as a fan, I've not really been seen this too many times be picking that sort. We're normally like in the top 15. But yeah, I think the Eagles have been kings of that recently, is having these picks in the mid to late first round, and they're finding these steals that other teams will pass on. And I think where you land matters. Colin Cowherd says it all the time, and I think it really matters. You know, some of the best quarterbacks of all time were taken in the first 15 picks. Dan Marino, Jim Kelly, Joe Montana, and obviously Tom Brady's the classic one. I kind of think if I was to play, I'd rather go 21st overall than 10th, or even I think first overall, yeah, it's great because you've got you're the guy who's been picked first overall. But I think if you get picked 21st overall, you're more likely to win stuff, and you've got less pressure because of you're not first overall. So I kind of think if I was a player, I'd kind of almost want to slide a little bit. And I think I kind of would rather I'd rather go to the reigning champions than the team that had 5 wins the year before. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see how that'll go. And speaking of which, my final player is, I'm bringing a bit of a UK element to this. I am going for Mississippi State tight end Seydou Traore. Born in England, born in London to be precise. Seems to always be in London. You never see it. Oh, they were born in Moss Side, or they were born in Edinburgh. It's always London. But this is a guy that plays as a goalkeeper. Then he joined the NFL Academy, and then he ended up playing in college. Here's our best chance of having a true Brit in the NFL, because you've had Christian Wade, Reece Emmett try. People like Osi Manora, Jay Ajayi were born in, or Osi's a more big example. Graham Gano born in Scotland, Osi born in London, but they're really American, not really British. But this is a guy that is purely British, and this isn't some British gimmick, let's get him in because he's British. He's got good stats. Last year alone, he had 369 yards and 5 touchdowns from a tight end. Had 655 yards in 2022. Has a total of 10 college touchdowns, which isn't that bad for a tight end. I don't think he's going to go and be a Travis Kelce, but I think, he may not even be drafted, but I think he's a guy that could be a great second choice. And even if teams go 12 personnel, get him in as your second choice, and even as a blocker tight end, whatever he's going to be. But I think from majority of his audience, it's going to be a UK-based audience. I think, they're saying if he's going to be taken, looking at 66 rounds, I think they viewed him as, something like the 248th best prospect in the draft. So he could be undrafted, but he could also be taken in that 7th round. And I think as a UK fan base, I think we should really be behind, even if he goes to a rival team of yours. 100%. I think he's a guy that absolutely should all root for, and we should all be looking out for in the upcoming NFL draft.
100%. I think he would fall under the International Player Pathway Program. So he will not cost your team a roster spot, even if he goes on the practice squad. So I see a team just taking him on that basis alone. Whereas, but you look at, you've seen some of the guys who've come through in, as you said, Lewis Reece Emmett, Christian Wade and whatnot. They went into the NFL essentially blind. this kid has come through the college system. He knows the sport, whether he's picked it up late or not. He's been through and knows the sport, right? So he is a true Brit, but he's been through and knows the sport. Now, by the way, I will throw this right back at you and say we have seen someone, not exactly Moss Side, but right round the corner in Longsight, we saw Menelik Watson, offensive lineman, who played for the Raiders, the Broncos, etc. So we have seen a Manny kid in the NFL, you know. Big Manchester City fan as well. And that was very early on in my NFL watching career. So having someone from your hometown, someone who grew up 10 minutes down the road from you, always great to root for. And your Florida Gators, I know you're not a big college fan, but you do have your allegiance to the Gators. They've just brought in Emmanuel Ayobadejo, who is from, I think it's Longsight as well, in Manchester. So very, very, very excited to see what he produces. He's a transfer in from Jacksonville State. But you're absolutely, not only is he's a fantastic talent, and that should not be taken away from anything that he is or isn't. But I am 100% with you when you say he's someone we should be getting behind. Someone we should all be hoping can go into the NFL, have a stellar career, and he is a fantastic footballer to boot. He's a very, very valuable tight end. Probably end up on a practice squad just because, look, tight end is a position where there's only one or two in a team across the league. And if there's two, one of them's a blocking one of them's a catching one. You kind of stuck for positions, but he's well worth a punt for an NFL team purely based on the fact that he's a top talent alone, let alone the fact that he will not cost them a roster spot. So he gets the opportunity to go in and hopefully impress.
Absolutely. And something I actually did mention on the previous episodes. There's actually a Brit now, the Dolphins. David Ajabo signed with the Dolphins this offseason. And, you know, as someone who myself, I want to say I'm about 94% Welsh, born in Wales, lived it all my life. But, you know, I've got a little bit of Scottish in me through my granddad's roots. So on my mum's side. So, yeah, not only has he got Scottish heritage, but also, he's playing for the Dolphins now. So, you know, I was kind of thinking when Reece Emmett was first joining the IPP, I'm thinking if he goes to the Dolphins, I'm buying his jersey. Now, I don't know whether I'll buy a Ajabo jersey, but it is really cool to see a Brit playing for my team. I don't think it's happened before, certainly in my time being a fan.
You have had a Brit.
Have we?
You had what's his name? What's his name? The running back. Why is his name left my head now?
Oh my god, that's so stupid. Jay Ajayi, that is
Jay Ajayi. That's one Super Bowl winner.
Oh my god, I'm an idiot. Literally, like when I turned from a casual fan to a diehard NFL fan, he was playing for the Dolphins. That's so stupid. Why did I? Oh, I'm an idiot. Don't everyone unsubscribe. That's awful. That's an awful take. I completely forgot about Jay Ajayi.
Oh, I mean, like, look, it's one of those. I think, to be fair, some days I sit back and I can't. His name had completely escaped my head. But that is Super Bowl winning Jay Ajayi, along with Super Bowl winning Brit Ocean Imura, and new to add. And when you say proper Brit, like born in England, grew up in England and Britain, we have now got another Super Bowl winner in that, just on the coaching side of that defensive coordinator, Adam Durden. I will say, I want to add this though. Marlon Klein is one of the tight ends in the draft as well. He probably won't get drafted. I'm looking at his UDFA out of Michigan. He's from Germany. He is German. There are, again, I've mentioned Emmanuel Ayobadejo. You've got at Boston. You've got quite a few Irish punters in college. There's a kid at Boston College. There is Sam. I want to say Sam Howell. It's not Sam Howell. I cannot remember his name. But there is the NFL Academy quarterback who's in. I can find him in a sec. But there are more and more, and not just British kids though, by the way, there are more and more and more international students, thanks to things like the NFL Academy and the IMG Academy, putting such an emphasis on international recruitment and really being, obviously, well, the NFL Academy exists to do that, but things like the IMG Academy being so supportive of giving opportunities to international students. We are just going to keep seeing more and more and more and more. Sam Fenton, that is the one. Sam Fenton is our USF London kid. So I think just on that note, it's more of a, there are plenty more young British talents and international talents in college football right now. I mean, Sam Fenton probably not starting at USF. We hope, fingers crossed. But there are plenty of young talents like that keeping up. So very, very, very excited. There's a kid at FSU as well. Good teams win great teams. Cover have done an interview with him recently. A British kid at FSU. So yeah, anyway, that just long way of saying loads more to come, and hopefully every year even more.
Exactly, and shout out as well to Andy Quinn, who is the kicker that does play for Boston College. So we do have our top 10 in no particular order. We have Jeremiah Love, Chris Bell, Spencer Fano. We have Ty Simpson. We have Jordan Tyson, Mackay Lemon, Ruben Bain Jr., Kevin Concepcion, as well as Dylan Thieneman, and also Seydou Traore. Now, as we always do with our top 10s, we'll each pick one player we want to have in the top 5 no matter what, and one player we'll sacrifice in the bottom 5. First of all, Fletch, I'll go to you. Who is a player that you are absolutely certain, without doubt, should be in this top 5 of players to look out for in the draft?
Great. Spencer Fano. Again, this is a really interesting battle he's got going on with Monroe Freeland at this moment in time. I also think he's an immense talent, and it's going to be really interesting to see just what NFL teams think about his size in particular more than anything, because he could be a ready-to-go starter. Would NFL teams be willing to take a punt on his size and bulk him up a little bit? Don't know.
Okay, and then
and
which
we
is
won't
one
know until
player
the day.
And which is one player that you are happy to concede we can have in the bottom 5?
Dylan Thieneman. It's an interesting prospect, and he could again go anywhere up from slightly just in the first half of the draft to anywhere at the bottom end of the first round of the draft. But compared to everyone else, it's a far less interesting story.
Okay, well, for me, I think out of my 5, the guy I think I really want to put in the top 5 is Mackay Lemon, because of the fact he could be one of those infamous draft slides. And then in the bottom 5, I think maybe because just for terms of, yeah, it's nice for the UK point of view, but maybe Traore. No, but maybe he should be in not bottom 5 because he is a good story. But he may not play.
I think he should be top 5.
Traore in the bottom 5 just because he may not actually play it down in the NFL. So then that means we've got left. So we've got Spencer Fano and Mackay Lemon in our top 5 no matter what. What order they're in, we don't know. And in the bottom 5, we've got Dylan Thieneman and Seydou Traore in our bottom 5. Again, no particular order. So that means we've got to try and pick between Jordan Tyson, Casey Concepcion, Ty Simpson, Chris Bell, Ruben Bain Jr. Kind of how are we going to make these in our top 10? That's what we've got to try and work out now. I will say we both your first pick was Love. My first pick would have been Love if you'd not said him. So maybe he should go in top 5 for that reason because we both had him. And also he's seen as quite a high draft pick. prospect. So have him, lock him in the top 5.
I think the Chris Bell one's interesting as well, because again, the more I look, when you keep looking at him, his name could go, I wouldn't say really super early on Thursday, but his name could go definitely with a bit of time to go on Thursday, but his name could also not get said on Thursday. And he might be the person that you sit down on Friday night and go, right, okay, so when's he coming off the board now then?
Okay, so we'll lock him in the top 5. Let's try and get some players we can sacrifice in the bottom 5. So left, we've got Ty Simpson, Casey Concepcion, as well as Jordan Tyson and Ruben Bain Jr. And apologies, I'm probably really butchering his name whenever I say his name. So apologies for that. But is there any... I'm trying to think...
If I take it in terms of, like, if we take in terms of talent, maybe not. But if we talk in terms of how likely the story is that they're going to keep falling, or how interesting it's going to be to watch their story throughout the draft day, you can put Ruben Bain Jr. in the bottom 5 because chances are he's still going top 10. He's still the second best in the draft in this position. It's just whether he's 6 or 8 kind of thing, rather than whether he's top 5 in the top 5 pick or a bottom 10 pick of the day. Less so like that.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe for that reason, maybe we put Ty Simpson. I still think he should be either 6th or 7th. I don't think he should be 10th. But Ty Simpson, I'll put in the bottom 5 because I just think maybe I don't know. I think maybe there's more intriguing storylines. But then
there are. Sorry, go on.
So I think we can put 10th, 9th, 8th. I think we've got our bottom 3, but then we can put maybe Simpson 6th or 7th, maybe. Because we got our top 4. I think we got our top 4 with Lemon, Fano, Love, and Bell. That means we got then 5th, 6th, and 7th between Ty Simpson, Casey Concepcion, and Jordan Tyson.
I think you put I think Tyson, Concepcion, Simpson
in that order.
Because that's I think personally. One, because one's my pick, so I'm going to stand on my own business here, Andy. But at the same time, it just in my personal opinion, Jordan Tyson could really fall, but he could also go really high, and it just depends on if someone's willing to take that chance. And the same kind of goes with Ty Simpson. But it's the likelihood is he'll go at the end of round 1, round 2 to one of the teams that we kind of think he's going to go to anyway. If what could happen with him, which makes the storyline intriguing, is unlikely to happen. But if it does happen, everyone can go up in arms about it. But it's still relatively unlikely to happen, in my opinion.
Okay, that's fine. So what we'll do, we've got Jordan Tyson 5th, Casey Concepcion 6th, and Ty Simpson 7th. Before we go on to our top 4, let's try and work out who's 8th, who's 9th, and who's 10th. I don't mind Shore being 10th because I realise that he may not play it down. I don't mind putting him 10th for that reason. But I'm open to ideas.
I'd put him 8 because at the end of the day, if his name does get read out on stage in Pittsburgh, how great a feeling would that be? Was it Clay Travis a couple of years ago who went to the Bills
with the Union Jack on
Travis, Travis Clayton, sorry. Like, he's yet to play down in the NFL. But it was just such a wonderful, it was such a great experience to see him stood there with the Union Jack getting his name called out on stage. And I think how monumentous it is, and especially if he goes early in day 3, or even likelihood to be day 3, if he goes early to mid day 3, when, let's face it, once that 7 round hits and there's like 2 minutes on the clock for every team, you're checking your phone every half an hour and saying, "Has any names I noticed? Any names I noticed? No, I'm okay." From Ian Rappaport tweets, someone like that, even if late day 3 he's not gone, you're looking out for his name. So he'll at least keep it interesting throughout the whole entire draft.
That's fair. So maybe we do then. Maybe because you use your first nominee for players you want to have in the bottom 10, bottom 5. Maybe we'll do Thieneman 10th and Ruben Bain 9th. Yeah.
I'm very, very happy with that. Because again, I think Ruben Bain's interesting. He's a great talent, but the storyline is not that. Probably going to not end up being that great. And Dylan Thieneman, same thing. Very good talent, but probably not a great storyline.
Fair. Overall. I'll take that. So that means we've got to try and pick our top 4 between Spencer Fano, Mackay Lemon, Jeremiah Love, and Chris Bell. Okay, so out of these 4, because I kind of think the players we both picked first were Spencer Fano and Mackay Lemon, but then we both had Love first in both our lists. So I kind of think I don't mind Bell being 4th for that reason, but trying to pick between these 3 ahead, I think it's incredibly hard. We
both had Jordan Love very, very high. Jeremiah Love very, very, very high. Jeremiah Love, that's an indication Jeremiah Love's probably number 1. It's he falls because he's the name of the position he's in, not because of his talent, and it's really going to be fun to watch. And then, however, the next 2 fall. Mackay Lemon, actually, I think Mackay Lemon could be 2nd, Spencer Fano 3rd, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's where I was thinking. That is
again. Mackay Lemon could be wide receiver 2, but as you've already said as well, could very, very, very much fall here. So.
But I don't know. But then, where do you fit Bo Callahan in all this? That's what I want to know.
Bo Callahan's in a league of his own, Andy.
The ultimate slide, the ultimate draft slide,
the ultimate slide.
So from 10 to 1, our list is locked in. So at 10, it is Dylan Thieneman. Number 9 is Ruben Bain Jr. Number 8 is Seydou Traore. 7 is Ty Simpson. 6 is Kevin Concepcion. 5 is Jordan Tyson. 4 is Chris Bell. 3 is Spencer Fano. 2nd is Mackay Lemon. And number 1, our number 1 player to look out for in this year's NFL draft is Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love. But there we are. That is our top 10 locked in. And first of all, do make a comment in the podcast or on the socials whether you agree, disagree with our list. But either way, Fletch, first of all, huge thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much. And I'm ready to scrap anyone in comments, in Twitter replies. Like I'm down to go. It's been a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. And that's the beauty of the draft is I have one opinion, you have another opinion, someone else has another opinion, and by the time it comes to draft day, we realise that we were all wrong.
Exactly. I can't remember many. There's often these mock drafts that are done that I look back on like a year later, and I look at how wrong some of these mock drafts are, and it's quite crazy when you think about it. But in the meantime, do follow Fletch, of course, and those watching on YouTube, you can see his handle on the YouTube video. So do follow if you haven't already at Lions Guy Fletch. Also follow his many different podcast feeds, whether that's Asleep at Work, NFL, Hurdle the Line, his College Football UK podcast. Yeah. Go check it out if you haven't already. But in the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I have been, as ever, your host today, Andy Davis, with our guest today in Fletch. I will see you guys next time. Take care.